Hey everyone, it's Priscilla from the Stitch Queen Crochet, and today I'm going to be showing you guys how to crochet your very own super cute crochet pumpkin. This is going to be a beginner friendly tutorial. I'm going to go step by step. If you want to follow along, learn how to read patterns, I have a free written pattern on my blog that I'll link below. If you want to support the channel, I also have a PDF downloadable pattern that you can purchase with step-by-step instructions, ad-free. You can download. I'll link that below as well if you want to purchase the pattern to support the channel. But this is a free tutorial. I'm going to go step-by-step on how to do it. We're going to go ahead and get right into the video. All right, here's the materials that I'm using to make my pumpkin. So I have a 3.75 millimeter crochet hook and worsted weight for yarn in orange. This is Vanna's Choice yarn in rust. You need about 75 yards or about 60 grams of orange yarn and just some scraps of green yarn. This is way too much. It's like a few yards will do just to make the stem. You can also use, if you want, like a bigger hook, like a 5 millimeter and like a weight 5 or 6 yarn, like a chunkier pumpkin. But I'm using a smaller hook so that the stuffing doesn't show through, so I have like closer, tighter stitches. You're also going to need some scissors, and you're going to need a yarn or darning needle to sew in your ends and to sew your pumpkin together. And last but not least, you're going to need some stuffing or some polyfil or just some scrap yarn to stuff your pumpkin. All right, let's get right into the tutorial. All right, so the stitches that you need to know is how to do the slip knot, how to chain, how to do a slip stitch, and how to work in the back loop, and how to do a single crochet. If you don't know how to do any of those things, I'll do a quick once over in this video, but I will also link stitch tutorials for each one of those video tutorials in the description. If you want to learn how to do it before we start, it's all down there in the description. All right, let's go ahead and get started. So first we're going to do a slip knot. We're going to take our orange yarn and we're going to do a slip knot and we're going to put it on our hook. So real quick tutorial, slip knot is you're going to go on your table, you're going to make a loop with the short yarn on top, and then you're going to bring it around the back of that loop, the short yarn, bring it a little bit through, and put it on your hook. Once again, quick refresher, but there's a full tutorial, very slow, how to do it in the description. All right, so after you put the slip knot on your hook, we're going to chain 20. So real quick chain refresher, you're going to wrap your yarn around your hook back to front, and we're going to pull it through the slip knot, and that is one chain. It's like a little V. So yarn over and pull that chain through. You can also just yarn over and grab that and go like this as well. I can't do it very well, but either way works. So we have 3 chains. You can also make a taller or shorter pumpkin with less or more chains, depending on how big you want it. We're just going to do 20 for today's sake for a nice little medium-sized pumpkin. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20. Don't forget, you can always pause this if I'm going too fast. And how to chain is in the description if you don't know how to do it. Like a short tutorial. All right, so we have our 20 chains. Also, if you want to measure it to make sure it's perfect, this is about 5.5 inches. So for row 1, we're going to look in our chains and we're going to skip the first chain. And we're going to start working in the second chain. So how I do this is I get my hook and there is a front loop of the chain and a back loop of the chain. I'm going to get my hook and put it in the back loop of that chain. So once again, here's our first chain we're skipping. We're going into our second chain. I'm going to put it in not the front loop, but the back loop of that chain. And I'm going to do a single crochet, which is just inserting it into that chain, yarn over, back to front, pull it through the chain, yarn over, back to front, and then put that through both loops. Single crochet. There's a slower tutorial, a lot slower, in the description below if you don't know how to do single crochet. You can always watch that, come back, and we'll continue on with the pattern. And we're going to continue on doing single crochets in the remaining chains of our work. So we just went in this one, so here's our next one. Gonna insert it in the back loop of that chain, not the front loop of the chain. Here's a V, the back loop, yarn over, pull it through, yarn over, pull it through 2. Continue on down the chain. So since we chained 20 and we skipped 1, our stitch count at the end of this is going to be 19 stitches. So if you want to make sure you did it right, at the end, make sure you count 19. Once again, you can always slow the tutorial down if I go too fast. But if you don't know how to do single crochet, rewind this or go in the description below and watch that tutorial. So I'm going to go ahead and single crochet in the remaining chains. Feel free to pause if you need to. You don't have to crochet as fast as I do. There's no rush. Except for me to get this tutorial done. But yeah, pause if you need to, rewind, and we can continue on. All right, if you're not done with the row, stop here. If you are, we'll continue on. So I just crocheted in all 19 chains because we skipped one. So here's all the V's, the top of all my stitches. Make sure you have 19. Count every single row you have 19. You want to make sure that your pumpkin doesn't go like this, decreasing or increasing on accident. Always count your stitches after each row, especially if you're a beginner. All right, so for row 2 and beyond, we're always going to turn our work and turn it like this so we can see the V's, aka our stitches. Each stitch looks like a V on top, and in the back looks like kind of like a pi symbol, like in math. Got that lump and then 2 things coming out of it. So if you turn our work like this, we can see our stitches, the V's. So to start every single row, you're always going to chain 1. All right, we're not going to go into that chain, and we're not going to skip any stitches. We're just going to go into our first stitch. So here's our chain we just chained, which in case you forgot what a chain was, you yarn over and pull it through 1 loop. We're not going to go into our chain. It does not count as a stitch. We're going to go into our next stitch right here. So we're going to do in the back loop of every single stitch. All right, so we're going to put our hook in the back loop, not the front loop, right here. We're going to yarn over and we're going to pull through. Yarn over, pull through both loops. That's your first single crochet. We're going to keep going in the back loop of each stitch. So here's our one we just did. Here's our next stitch. Not the front loop, not both, but just the back loop of the stitch. Yarn over, pull it through, yarn over, pull through 2. All right, we're going to keep doing in the back loop of every single stitch until we get to the end of our row. And make sure if you're a beginner, you're counting your stitches. Make sure you have 19 after every single row. So insert it, yarn over, pull it through 1, yarn over, pull it through 2. All right, so pause if you need to until you finish row 2. And then we're going to basically continue doing this. I'm going to show you the next row after we're done, just so you have it in your head. And after we do round 3, we're literally going to do 30 rows of the same thing we just did. So if you're not done with round 2, just feel free just to pause the video. But I'm going to go right into row 3. So here's my last stitch. And then you're going to count your stitches. Make sure you have 19. And then we're going to turn our work like this. And don't forget, if we turn it like this, we will see all of the V's, which are the tops of the stitches. So V here, V here, V here, V here. You see them? Okay. So here's round 3, and what you're going to keep doing until you get basically the circumference of how big you want your pumpkin to be around. I'm going to do 30 rows. So if you already got it, you can continue on. If not, I'll show you once again how to do the row you're going to repeat over and over and over again. To start your row, always chain 1, just yarn over, pull up a loop. We're not going to go into that chain. we're going to go into our first stitch, this next V. We're going to go into the back loop of that stitch, not the front loop, not under both, the back loop. Yarn over, pull that yarn through, yarn over, and pull it through both loops. And keep going in the back loop of each stitch until you get to the end of your row. And the reason why we do the back loop is what the back loop does is it creates these beautiful textured ridges for our pumpkin. I love some texture. So if you ever want to add crochet, some texture to your crochet, do back loop or do front loop, or third loop. That's a whole other stitch. And that will give you some nice little texture to your patterns or whatever you're making or working on. So you're going to keep doing the back loop until you get to the end of your row, and then you're going to turn your work and just do the same thing again. Now I have timestamps in the description of every single row that we've done together so that you know where to go if you want to remember how to do the row. So this is the end of row 3, and you're going to keep repeating what we just did for row 3 until you do 30 rows. Or you can just do it until you get the circumference that you want of the pumpkin. So this is going to be the pumpkin. It's this way. It's the width of it. So I'm going to keep going until I get the width of my pumpkin. And for me, that's just 30 stitches. If you started with less chains, you might want to do less rows. If you start with more chains, you might want to do long rows. It's all going to depend on how big you want your pumpkin. But this is going to end up going like this to shape the pumpkin. So just keep that in mind. All right, I'm gonna let y'all go. Come back when you get to about 30 rows, or if you want to be just like me, until your work gets 9 inches long, whichever comes first. All right, I'll catch up with you guys at the end of row 30. Okay, so after we finish doing our 30 rows, make sure you count, make sure you have enough. A quick way to count is to see how there is a single crochet row on both sides of that ridge. So there's 2 on each ridge. So there's 1 and 2, 3, 4. So I can count the ridges. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15. 15 times 2, because there's 2 rows on each ridge, is 30. So I know I have 30 rows. If you start it where the ridge is not in the middle of after the first one, you have to like add 1 on each side. But either way, turn it so that the ridges are on the ends. And then, yeah, quick way to count. So now we're going to sew our pumpkin together. I'm going to sew my ends on the inside. So you can do it inside or outside, doesn't really matter. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to fold it hamburger style, bring you all back to school today. And we're going to either slip stitch the ends together, or we're going to sew. So if you're feeling like really new, you just want to sew the ends together, all you have to do is just cut a really long strand of your yarn, pull it through this loop to fasten off, put the yarn on your darning needle, and just sew your end together. Your sides together. But I'm going to show you guys how to slip stitch them together instead today. So we're not going to fasten off yet. Instead, we are going to once again fold it hamburger style and have your last row in front of you, in front of the other side. Here's my hook. It's on this part. It's right in front of me. So for the first one, we're going to make sure that we know where our stitches are, and we're going to be attaching it to the bottom of the chain of our first row. So if you look at this piece right here behind me, we have the bottom of the chain. There's a lump here, there's a lump here, lump, 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 lump. That's the bottom of the chain from our first row. So for the first one, you're going to put your hook through both loops of that first stitch and go to the adjacent chain from the first row. So here's that first lump. I'm going to put my hook into that lump. And to slip stitch, all you gotta do is yarn over and pull it through all the loops on your hook. Alright, so after we do the first one, now we're going to be slip stitching into the back loop. The first one is through both just to secure it, but now we're going to look at our next stitch right here. I'm going to put it in the back loop and then go to the adjacent chain on the other piece, the other side. So here's that next lump. Then I'm going to yarn over and pull it through all the loops on my hook. The reason why I do the back loop is so that we can create another ridge right here. So find my next stitch, put it in the back loop, find that next chain on the other side, which is, we just went to this one, so the next one is right here. Yarn over and pull it through all loops on your hook. Alright, go into the next stitch, go into the next chain, and continue doing that until you get to the end of your row. Now if you're like, Priscilla, I can't see that, that's too hard. Cut your yarn, pull it through your last loop on your hook, get a darn needle, and just sew it together. If that's easier for you, please do that. It could be easier if you don't know. This part is a little bit hard to see because it's all the same color. So either way works, but at the end of the day, you just want to attach both sides of your pumpkin. So I'm going to real quick finish up attaching this, and then we're going to go ahead into the next part. And guys, we're literally almost done. You got the longest part out of the way, by the way. That was just the longest part. Luckily, it's pretty repetitive, so you could learn it pretty quickly, which I like. But yeah, it just takes a little bit longer if you crochet a little bit slower, which is totally fine. But yeah, you could definitely finish this in like a day or two if you're a beginner, if you really commit. Alright, so here we are on the last few ones. I'm gonna just put it in that chain one. I'm gonna finish that off here. Okay, so if you use a darn needle, when you get to the end, just tie a knot and sew in your ends. But if you slip stitch, just pull a long end, and, you know, it's about 1.5 feet or so. Get your scissors, which I don't know where mine are. Here they are. And just cut off that long end. And if you decide to sew it in, get another strand of yarn and put it on your darning needle, and we're going to sew up the top. So if you slip stitch, just pull that yarn through, and then we're going to pull it tight, and we're going to get that long strand and put it on our darning needle. So do the same thing. If you didn't, if you sewed it, just get a new strand of yarn and put it on your needle. So now we're going to sew the top of our pumpkin. So the way that we're going to do this is we're going to go in one row and out the next. So for example, here's where I'm starting. I'm going to go in the next single crochet row with my needle. It's going to go in. We're going to do a running stitch. And then we're going to go next to that and just come out. I'm going to go in the next row and out the next one. Oops, came off my needle. Let's put that back on. So in case you didn't get that, I just came out of this row. Here's kind of my next row. It's okay if you don't get it exact on the rows. I'm going to go in the next one. So it just came out of here. So I'm going to go in right next to it to the left. I'm going to go in and out until we go all the way around. It doesn't have to be perfectly on each row. Just make it so that it's basically close to each other when you're going in and out. Because we're going to use this, kind of like how we made our crochet beanie, we're going to use it to sew the top together. I'm going to go back and forth until we get all the way around. So I'm going to catch up with you guys. I'm going to pause for a second and keep going until I get to where I started right here. All right, y'all, I have did the running stitch all the way around. Now I'm going to pull what I just went around with. So the yarn that you've been going in and out of, just pull it. And if you use a darning needle with a new strand of yarn, make sure that you hold your beginning tail when you pull it so it doesn't slide all the way out. So if you started off with a new fresh yarn that wasn't attached to your pumpkin, hold the beginning of that thread and make sure you hold it when you pull it so it doesn't come out. So after we pull it, we're going to have a little hole there, and we don't want that hole. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to get my needle. I'm just going to go across from where I am and kind of just start sewing that hole closed. So I went this way. Now I'm going to go from here to here. It's going to go through each side of that hole. So come out right about over here somewhere and just sew that hole closed. We don't want to see it. Okay, so that about, I'm gonna go once more kind of diagonal across from one side to the other side and just sew that hole closed. All right, so let's go on to the next part. If you still have a lot of yarn left, we can go ahead and go sew up the bottom. If you're out of yarn or almost out of yarn, just tie a knot, you know, sew in your ends. If you don't know how to sew in your ends, that's linked below as well. But if you have enough yarn, or get some more yarn, and now we're going to go do the bottom. So I'm going to get my needle and I'm going to just push it through the middle of the hole. We can't see the hole anymore. We're going to push it through the middle, the top of our pumpkin. I'm just going to assume it's right here. Get my needle and I'm going to pull it out the bottom of my pumpkin. Like so. All right. And now we're going to do the same thing on the bottom of our pumpkin. We are going to go in one row and then out right next to it. And you're going to continue doing that running stitch along the bottom of your pumpkin. So I'll catch up with you guys when I get to where I started. And then we'll close up the, we'll partially close the bottom because we have to stuff it still. All right, I'll catch up with you guys when I go all the way around. Okay, so I have now sewed all the way around. And now, same as the top. Oh, actually, before we pull it close, let's get our polyfill and our stuffing. I'm going to use some yarn scraps because I did my hair in purple, my yarn twist. So I'm going to go ahead. I have a bunch left. We're just going to get some scraps from our last projects. Ooh, that's a lot. It's a lot of purple. Probably too. I don't need this much. Well, here we are anyway. All right. Get some scraps. Oh, I got all over my floor, y'all. Okay, and we're gonna stuff our pumpkin as full as we want it before we pull it closed. So stuff, stuff, stuff. Keeping your yarn scraps is a great way to save some money because you like if you like making amigurumi or like stuffies or whatever, you can always use scraps, and it's a good way to like reuse, reduce, recycle. You know what I mean? Because I can't go buy a thing of polyfill because I don't make enough stuffies enough to like justify a giant bag of polyfill. So I use my scraps because I definitely always have scraps. I want to stuff mine a little bit more. Really get it in there. Yeah, I want it to be like a nice thick with 2 C's pumpkin. Okay. That should probably be enough. I'm probably going to accidentally overstuff it, but that's okay. I'd rather it be a little over than like flat. Okay. Okay. That should be enough. So whenever you stuff it to your liking, I like kind of opening up the middle a little bit, like a donut. because we're going to end up going through the middle of the pumpkin to scrunch it. So yeah, kind of stuff it along the sides as much as you can. Kind of go like this a little bit. Okay. Now we're going to pull it closed. Once again, if you started fresh with a new strand of yarn, make sure you hold where the your tail is at so it doesn't come out, but my tail is on the other side, so I'm fine. So now we're just going to pull it closed. So much. I love this part. I don't know why. It's just so satisfying. Oh yeah. And then after we do that, I'm going to tie a little knot with my darning needle, and I'm going to start sewing the top closed like we did for the bottoms. Tie a little knot so it stays in place, and put that yarn back on your darning needle. And we're going to sew that hole closed. We don't want to see that stuffing. So I'm going to go from across where I was to over here. Kind of just try to pull it through there. There we go. Pull that tight. I'm going to go the opposite direction. Kind of, yeah, through a good amount of both sides. Make sure you go over the stuffing. All right, put it through this side. Pull it tight. Do that again. Another angle. Okay. And then I'm going to tie another knot. Just make sure it stays secure. And if you like your pumpkin nice and big and thick like this, you can keep it like that. Nice so lopsided. But if you want to scrunch it like this one, all we got to do is get our darning needle and put it back through the middle of the pumpkin, and then squish it, and then take a little bit of grip strength, and make sure your darning needle comes out the middle of the other side of your pumpkin. The top, bottom, whatever side you want it to be. You gotta really push it through. Getting that workout in today. Oops, I messed that up. Hold on. I think I went to the wrong side. I did. Oops. Sorry, ignore that. So I'm putting it back on my darning needle. Make sure you go into the side that your yarn's already on. I don't know, I went the other side. Put it through the middle, and then squish it and pull it out the other side. It might take a few tries to get it out the middle. There we go. Pull it through and just scrunch it a little bit. And then you're going to go in next to that and go to the other side. So like I said, we're going to go right next to where we came out from, not the same hole. Just go to another hole right next to it, and we're going to go out the middle of the other side again to squish it, and then do your best to go out the middle of the other side. There we go. And the other that's like a metal one probably won't bend as much and go straight through a lot easier compared to what I have right now. We're going to squish it again. And I'm going to continue going next to where I came out from, and doing this about 3 or 4 times just to make sure that it is secure. By squishing it a little bit more each time. Come out the middle of the other side again. Once again, a metal hook, that would probably be a lot easier than this plastic one. But here we are. Okay. All right. Pull and tighten it. Yeah, we're getting there. So one more time to be safe. Go in right here. If it wants to. There we go. That's better. It's easier. Come out the middle of the other side. Come on, you can do it. Oop, I got some stuffing coming out. We'll squish that back in later. All right. Use my hook and just stuff that stuffing back in. All right. Whew. After we do that, we're going to tie a knot to secure it. And we're going to sew in our ends a little bit. Just like once, and then we'll go back and we'll pull it through just to make sure that this will not come out. So I'm gonna like make it go through this row right here. Not perfectly, just, you know, so that it's secure. We're going to go this way. Then I'm going to go back. All right. And then I'm just going to stuff it in the pumpkin, the needle. Make it come out somewhere random. Pull it through and cut it. All right, guys, we're almost done. Now we're going to make the stem, sew the stem on, and we'll be complete. So go ahead and grab your crochet hook. And actually, just kidding, we're going to sew this in first. I'm going to pause real quick, sew this other end in, and then we're going to continue on with our stem. Okay, now we got a few more scraps for our next pumpkin. Okay, so grab your green yarn, the few scraps that you have, and grab your hook. And we are going to do a slip knot again. Put it on your hook, and we're going to chain 10. All right, this is a kind of probably like a weight 3-ish yarn, borderline weight 4, but it's fine. All right, so after you chain 10, we're going to make sure that we don't go into that first chain again. We're going to start by going into the next one. So put your hook into your next chain and do a single crochet. And we're going to do 3 more in the same chain. So as you can see, we're going to do an increase. My stitch right here, we just went into this chain. We're going to go back into the same chain we just went into and do another single crochet. And then back in the same hole, the same chain, and do another. And back in the same chain and do 1 more. We're going to do 4 single crochet in each chain. I'll show you again. Oops, sorry, that yarn got split. Let me fix that real quick. All right, so if you pull our last stitch, we know we just came out of this chain. So here is our next one. So we're going to put it in and do a single crochet. If we pull our last stitch, you can see we just came out of this hole right here. Let's go back into it again and do another single crochet. All right. So we have 2 coming out of that. Let's go into it again and do 2 more. So we have 4 total. So now we have 4 single crochet in that chain. So that was our last chain. Let's go into our next one, which is right here. You're going to continue doing 4 single crochet into each chain until you get to the end. And as you do it, you're going to start realizing that your work is going to start curling like this. See how it's already curling? So let's go into our next chain. We just came out of this one right here. If you pull it up, we can see. So here's our next one. It's our next V. We're going to do 4 single crochet into the next stitch. 1, 2. We got 2 in there. Let's go back in there, do 2 more. All right, next chain. We just came out of this one. So our next one is right here. As you crochet more and more, you'll get more wisdom, and you'll know where you just crocheted into and where you're supposed to crochet into next. There's a lot of trial and error to figure that out. But yeah, I'm going to do 4 into each chain. So I'm going to catch up with you guys when I get to the end of this row. Okay, so I just did 4 single crochet in each of the chains, so your stitch count will be 36. And we have a cute little curly Q right here. So after you get to the end, when you get to the end, chain 1. So yarn over, pull it through, and then cut a long strand because we're going to sew it in. You're getting, about this much yarn. I always get too much just to be safe. And we're going to pull it through. And now we're going to sew it onto our pumpkin. Okay, so get the long strand you just cut on your stem and put it on your darning needle. Make sure that I'm actually in the camera. All right, so now we'll sew in this other end later. I mean, you could probably, I would say just sew in this other small end now. Just don't gotta do it later, but I don't care. So we're gonna choose what we want the top of our pumpkin to be. I feel like that's kind of more of a bottom. This is gonna be the top of it for me. So we're gonna get our needle and we're gonna poke it through the middle, the top of our pumpkin. Whoop, pull it through. Look at the cute little curly Q. Okay, sorry, distractions. Okay, pull it through. And then what I like to do the same thing that we did when we scrunched it. Go somewhere not out the same hole you came out of, but nearby. And we're going to put it in the middle and bring it back out the top. And when I bring it back out the top, I like to bring it through the bottom part of the stem to really secure it on there, if I can, so that we secure the stem some more coming out of the stem. So it's a little bit hard to do this. All right, I like to do it one more time. Go in through the stem to secure it out the bottom. It took me a minute to do that to pause the video. And then I'm going to go back up one more time. Okay, goodness, that was difficult. All right, pulling it out, and then I'm gonna take my darn needle off. And if you want, you can tie a little knot with your two ends. If you didn't sew it in like I didn't sew it in, do a little double knot. No one's gonna know. No one's gonna see it, right? No one's staring that hard. And then I'm gonna put them both on my needle, and then you just sew in the ends however you like. Just gonna put mine through the stem once and then twice the other way. And then after I do that, I just poke it into the middle of the pumpkin, bring it out anywhere out of the other side of the pumpkin, doesn't matter where. Then I cut the end off. And there we have it. Let's give it a little curl. You guys made a crochet pumpkin. You should be so, so, so proud of yourself. So let's make this curly Q correct. Thank you guys so much for crocheting pumpkins with me. If you enjoyed this tutorial and you want to support the channel, just like and comment your favorite thing you enjoy about fall, or if you like pumpkin spice like I do. If you want to buy the pattern PDF, that's downloadable. I'll link it below, but there also is a free written pattern on my blog as well. Thank you guys so much for watching. Also, this pumpkin I just made turned out bigger than this one, I think because I stuffed it more. So that was fun. You never know how it's going to come out based on how much you stuff it. So thank you to my channel members for supporting my channel. Y'all are awesome. And if you want more fun tutorials, watch one of these videos next. And thank y'all so much for watching. Have an awesome day, my crochet kings and queens. And I will see you in the next video. Bye.